Okay, folks, welcome back. Been a few days. Been a few days more than it normally is. You know, I'd like to paint every night, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. And especially these couple of weeks, these last 2 weeks have a lot of things that involve family events. Nothing bad, but stuff that doesn't happen very often, and just haven't gotten a chance to be on here. But I'm on now, so there you have it. Put some of these things away that are in places they should not be. Oh, I know what I wanted to do just before I went on. I distract so freaking easy. I wanted to take a look at the poll. For those of you guys that do not know, I put out a poll yesterday about the question I always get asked about. And let's see, how am I able to see that? Here? I think this is how I need to be able to see it. And lots of people subscribed to it. Lots of people entered it, over 50, which I think is a lot of just over one day. How many is it? 56. Yes, and I'm kind of surprised the way the distribution went. So the question I posed is, since I keep getting asked this and want to have an accurate and consistent answer, should I make a short video why I no longer play DBA after 18 years of complete dedication to it? I've mentioned it many times, at least a dozen times. But if people aren't watching my live feeds, they probably don't see them. I don't want it to be a negative video. It doesn't have to be a negative video. But, yeah, so I made a poll, yes, we want answers. Just because you want them doesn't mean you're going to get them, but that's how I posed the question. Yes, we want answers. No, it doesn't matter. And the last choice is, I don't care either ways. I didn't watch the DBA stuff anyways. And I was hoping in the back of my, obviously I want an accurate poll, but I was hoping somewhere in the back of my mind that the third choice would have been the one that took off. Most people are like, I don't give a shit about that DBA stuff anyways. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to, but it is emphatically the yes, we want answers. So at some point, I will make a little outline so I don't leave anything out, because I tend to do that. I distract easy and leave things out. And then go, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this one thing. That's the problem when you do videos that aren't staged. When you do videos that aren't staged and edited, then you leave things out. But if it becomes too edited, then it becomes something I don't enjoy doing. It becomes work. I have a whole history. My whole back history is of not doing outlines and stuff. I wasn't good at papers. I wasn't good at science projects. I didn't do any of that. Anything that involved outlines, I historically have not, is basically a turnoff for me through grade school. So, I'm a good test taker, bad on homework, and really bad on doing anything that remotely is considered busy work. I am allergic to busy work. So, but anyhow, it looks like I'll probably do one of those videos at some point in the next year. I think that's safe to say. So, we got a lot of stuff coming up in the next month, and it probably won't be in the next month. But anyhow, yeah, 75% of the 55 responders wanted answers. That's pretty emphatic. So, Mr. Glenn, welcome. If it was something that I wasn't willing to do, it's not like I'm going to put a poll and let me get your opinions and I'm not going to do it. I'll show you who's boss. That's not me. That's not my That's not my cup of tea. But I was hoping that third category would be really the prominent one, because I'm not going to go back and play it ever again. I'm emphatically not going to play it. And it's not because I hate the author. It's not because I didn't have good times playing the game. I've done everything I can do with it. There's issues I have with the rules that I put up with for the sake of what's the word I'm thinking of? Solidarity. And it was keeping me from doing this. And I'm really enjoying doing this a lot. And, and if you like DBA content, there's lots of videos that I've done on DBA content, and they're not going to go away unless the author turns out to be a communist or something like that, which is not the case. But, they're still going to be on there, we can still talk about DBA stuff and armies, and there's a reason why my channel is called Figuratively Speaking. I love talking about miniatures. And I don't know anything about 28 millimeter miniatures. I never got into them. But if it's 20s and World War II and other stuff, I love talking about figures. So if you guys that come on here frequently, I don't know that everybody that's necessarily into DBA comes on here on these live chats. But if there's something that you're interested in about another army or something like that, I mean I still have the books. I'm not going to get rid of any of that stuff. It's just I don't want to. Without stealing my own thunder. Now, there's always stuff left to say in the video. But I don't want to work on something for 6 months. And it's the same thing over and over for 6 months. I'm not going to take shortcuts. That's not what I'm here for. You guys want to see shortcut painting. There's lots of people that do dipping and stuff like that. And it just doesn't work for me. The third category probably was the most prominent. The people who didn't care just didn't care enough to apply at all. You always got to always looking at the bright side of things, Well, you know what it proves? It proves that a lot of people, a couple things. It either proves that people want controversy, which you're not going to get in my video. I don't do controversial videos. I'm going to talk about other rule sets, and I'm not going to mention any names. I don't have any. I mean, there's reasons why I don't play other rule sets, but there's a lot of people that have this obsession with trying to convert people to, have you tried to play this? Oh, you would like bolt action, or you would like this other, or you would like Flames of War. Or I'm like, no. I mean, I know what I like, and what I like in a rule set is things that have the kind of detail that's going to keep me motivated to paint stuff for it. I don't want to spend many hours painting knights that look a certain way and trying to find the certain figures for them, and then play a rule set that just kind of treats them all the same. I don't think it's fair to the effort that I put into them. And I'm not just going to be like, well, just don't put that effort in them. Just spray them silver. And it's like, you don't understand that this is therapy for me. Trying to do the best that I can. This isn't. I'm not Picasso. Like Picasso could actually paint really well, but he chose not to. Yeah, I'm going to try to do things the best that I can. But I don't try to convert other people. I don't go, hey, you're stupid for playing Flames of War. No, if you enjoy playing Flames of War, if you enjoy playing other rule sets, have at it, It is more important, the people, if you're going to play a game with other people, the most important thing is the people you're playing with. Because if you're playing with dickheads, that's not really, getting anything. But anyhow, hey Nordic, guess what I got today? Finally, the FedEx labels for me to print out. It's a good thing that I wasn't in a hurry to get that stuff, because they haven't sent it to me in a hurry, but I got them. Now I just have to find boxes, and I'm not going to be packaging them up in the next week. I just have too much stuff to do that's not game related. I almost got on last night, but it would have been like 9. It would have been too late. So, anyhow, but yeah, they finally sent me the labels for that. For the Noble Knight. The Noble Knight labels. So, did you enter the poll? Doesn't really matter. You know, I don't... Oh. Ew. Speaking of stupid people, oh boy. Last night I saw a YouTube video from a Warhammer 40k player talking about why historical gaming isn't popular. It's because people are stupid, that's why. He says because nobody wants to play Nazis. And oh, come on. There's probably just as many people who don't want to play Nazis as ones that, because they're Nazis, as ones that do because they're Nazis. What? Huh? No. There's other periods other than Nazis. Let me go rinse this thing and we'll get a new piece of paper and we'll get going here. Stupid people. I don't care what other people, what other rule sets people play. I will be right back. I think it's fair to say this. People that don't play historical games shouldn't talk about what people that play historical games are all about. The same way I don't want to talk about people that play fantasy and science fiction. I don't play those things. You know? I have no interest in them. You know? I've said this before. When I play a historical game, I want to be motivated to read about the period that I just partook in. And if I don't want to, then the game doesn't do it for me. If I'm playing a Napoleonic game and it is so vague and non-specific, generic, i.e. generic, that it does not make me want to read a little bit about the battle after I'm done, either before or after I'm done playing it, then it is a fail for me. You finally close to the start of the live stream. Hover. Yeah, you're on here. You catch most of my streams, Skylab. Yeah, but welcome back. You don't have a history of that. Sorry to disappoint you. You're on the ball more than you think you are. 1.7K. Yeah, well, I'm right on the cusp. I could drop it to 1,600. It's been really difficult to get more people, but you know, I have a niche channel. I have a very, very niche channel. Rick, you have a video, I think it's you, that you put out recently that had a shitload of views. No, well, you do, but it was somebody else that doesn't have a lot of views that has like 600 something subscribers, and like in a week they had like 3,000 or 4,000 views. It's like, wow, just unbelievable. But, you know, good for them. I'm not jealous of other people. You know, everybody does their content. I don't, you know, I'm not into a lot of different things. There's just not enough of me to go around. Maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, I was really surprised on that poll how it went. It's a lot of people want answers. Oh, well, you know, I can bring it up again. You know, it's not a big deal. But I don't go and convert people. I'm just not a convert, you know. If you enjoy playing 28mm stuff, play 28mm stuff. I don't care if anybody else doesn't play 20s. You know, I got into 20s because they were popular at the time that I got them. And specifically, one of my favorite miniatures that was very available had a sculptor that is my hero. I have a hero sculptor, and he doesn't make them anymore. And since then, there's other sculpts that I enjoy as well, but he's the one that got me into this scale. So him and a buddy of mine, we were both doing this stuff in this scale. 20 mil, as we call them, MIL. And, you know, if you're happy with 15s, be happy with 15s. Now, one thing is interesting. Just wait for Big Phil to declare his jihad against the channel due to your apostasy. Come on, man. I don't have nothing. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's actually never made a comment on him, and I met him one time. He's a very nice man. I have no problem with him being the way he is. I respect people that are true to, their being, and he's dealt with gamers a lot longer than I have, and a lot of gamers are just turds, But the reality is, the only bad thing I have to say about him is that he might be a brilliant man, and I think he is. But if he organizes the rules in a way that most people are misplaying the rules the way he's intended, people can't realize how good his rules are. And I thought it was the wording. It's not necessarily the wording, it's how it's organized. And it's really, it's just unfortunate that I've tried to make it clearer for so many years, and I've tried to do my best, and it just isn't good enough. And that's not necessarily the biggest reason why. I just enjoy painting, and I enjoy painting a lot of detail, and I need a game that has a little bit that's less abstract. I've never been an abstract gamer. I've never been bad at math unless the math is really abstract. Algebra 2, you could take, that's for the dogs, okay? I'm not interested in that. Algebra 1, geometry, all that kind of stuff, it makes sense to me. It's logical. I don't do abstract. I don't like abstract art. I'm not an abstract thinker. So the fact that I stuck with it as long as I did, maybe that's really the miracle. Did my Skytrex order show up? It did. It did. And I used a couple of things from it. No, I haven't actually. Nope. No, I just kind of hit a slowdown where I was painting some figures, but we'll use them all up. Don't know if I made it to US yet. I've been watching a 6-part miniseries based on the SAS called Rogue Heroes. Great little show, very entertaining. I watched one episode with the daughter, and we weren't captivated by it. I hated the AC/DC music in it. And I like AC/DC, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't belong in the World War II film. Just like hippie tunes don't belong in Kelly's Heroes. But that's another thing. From reading Phil's articles, I'm sure he would respect your decision. I have nothing bad to say about him. I think that he's come up with stuff that I wouldn't have come up with because he's looking at it from another angle. But anyhow. So I'm not taking the stuff down for his game. I don't really have any. As a matter of fact, the biggest problem that I have with anything that involves Phil is that a lot of people have taken his work, repackaged it, and sold it, and not given the man any credit. I have a problem with that, I have a problem with that. It's different if you're going to repackage the stuff, and not give him any credit, but then not sell it. But no, they're selling it, and they're not giving the man any credit. Like, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been playing ancient stuff, So. All right. So anyhow, it's got nothing to do with him. And it doesn't have to do with most of the players that I encounter anyways. It actually, if it has anything to do with people, it's the people that never played a fucking game, but they were like rules lawyers and arguing it like they were the most experienced person in the game round and round. And I'm like, that's the problem with the internet. This is the part, if I was a politician, I would be misquoted on. The problem with the internet is not everybody deserves a voice. Oh, I can't believe what you said. You said that. Well, listen. Some people are out to do no good. Okay, trolls, etc. Okay, and some people are literally out to obfuscate and hide the truth, etc. They, if you're causing trouble, I don't think you deserve a voice. And the internet just makes it everybody's voice has technically the same value, and it doesn't. For an example, I don't like to talk about work, and I'm going to tiptoe around this as much as I can. If you work at a company for a long time, as I have, and it gets rebranded slightly, and they bring in new people who don't have a lot of a lot of loyalty to your company, do you automatically give them respect, or you feel like they got to earn it? I feel like they got to earn it. Now, I'm not saying you need to sabotage what they're doing, but I don't have a lot of respect for people that work a year here, a year and a half there, 6 months here, 2.5 years here. I've been almost 30 fucking years in the same place. Now, maybe I'm the opposite extreme, but I don't respect people that have a resume and every year they're changing something different. I'm like, okay, this guy's a wishy-washy person that doesn't stand for anything. I get it. Maybe you have a bad job or you got a bad manager or something like that and you got to hop around. But why are you hopping around every freaking year, man? You're the problem, So, at least in my book. So, I don't automatically assume that that everybody has the same value. But maybe that's just me. But that's, one of the things I value as a person a lot is loyalty. And it doesn't mean you need to be a yes person or whatever, but can you be counted on? One of my biggest gripes, I'm probably going to steal all my thunder off the video I'm going to make, but I'll rehash these points again. One of my biggest gripes is doing all this effort to promote a rule set. Put it on, put videos. I did the videos because they're fun, but, still putting all that stuff out. And then people say, oh yeah, man, I'll be right over. I'll see you at the next con, and they never show up. And I take that personal. I try not to. I'm sure it's happened before. I don't say, hey, I'm going to do something, and I don't do it. That's just not my personality. But most people, will do whatever. Just like if you just tell the truth, it's easy to keep your lies straight. You're not telling any. So, anyhow, I don't even know what the hell I'm painting, but this guy needs to be sealed. This little guy needs to be sealed. Oh, you know what we did? What it was? I forgot doing some buttons the other day. So, I like when people do stuff like, Phil doesn't want to sell his rules to anybody. I mean, I respect shit like that a lot, because I think some things can't be bought. I think some things shouldn't be bought. The fact that many humans say, oh, I'll just sell it. I'll sell my soul, or I'll do whatever my almighty dollar or pound sterling says. I don't think very highly of that. Not everything can be bought. Your integrity is, some people call it integrity. I call it honor, but anyhow, I got nothing against the man. Nothing. So, but we're the ones out on the front lines trying to play this game, and it's really frustrating when you continually get shit wrong because of the way it's presented. It's totally different than anything that anyone is used to. There we go. There's some happy buttons. Okay, now Guy is ready to go. And I also got to believe, if Phil had been younger and he was my Mitch, he'd have a hell of a lot more fun playing his game than he ever has. Because we like to get we try to get the milk out of a brick. Try to squeeze it for everything it's worth, not just push guys forward and be done with it. There's a lot more finesse you can have with it. Okay. So Guy is done. Who's up next? Who is up next? That guy is a Battlefield Miniatures dude. What got you into wanting to play Ancients? Sadism. All right, let's back up a little bit. Prior to 2004, now, let me find a guy to paint, and then we can talk about that. Oh, this is the guy with the flag. He looks like he's got like a Hitler Youth looking shirt or whatever. I'm going to eventually have to paint one of these shittier SHQ guys. I'm not a big fan of them. All right, we'll paint this guy. Paint that SHQ guy. What got me into playing Ancients? All right, so I've talked about in the early 90s that we would take road trips down to Tampa, which is about 2 hours away, to go to buy miniatures. And I got this idea, like, everybody wants to play their people at their height and at their prime. I think they do, And I'm like, well, I wouldn't mind playing some Spanish conquistadors. Mr. Pomfret, welcome. I wouldn't mind playing some conquistadors, that type period, 16th century Spanish. And I came across a set of rules called Armati. It wasn't a lot of figures. Didn't have a lot of commitment. I was already a slow painter. I've always been a slow painter. But in the mid-90s, I was already getting into this layering thing and really slowing down my style. Probably by looking at things in stuff like White Dwarf and stuff where, real stellar-looking painting stuff was on there. I'm like, I can do that. Let me dissect how they're doing it. And I was like, whoa, this is taking forever. But I'm happy with it. So I go down there and I pick up a set of rules called Armati, and I was going to do some Renaissance Spanish. And a buddy of mine at the time, the Mitch at the time, was like, oh, okay, well, he bought a couple different armies, and he always painted, 10, 15 times faster than I did. And so I never even played the rules before. I got a couple elements painted. They're around here somewhere. And just kind of lost interest because, I have a hard time picking up rules and never playing them before, especially if I don't have, figures for the rule set painted. This is like 96, 97, something like that. So, fast forward, no, I think it was even earlier than that. I don't know. It was sometime in the 90s. And so fast forward to 2003. And through these news groups, I find out there's a group, a couple of hours south of me, that are putting on an Armati game, how to play Armati. And I'm like, well, I got to get on that because I can get my foot in the door. It's not like you could just turn on YouTube and find all this stuff out. It's like I got to see it. I got to play it before I can dissect what the rules mean. So I go down there. I play all day at this convention, it was at a hobby store. Met this guy named Leon Mason. Great guy, had a good time all day playing with him. I'm like, well, when do you guys play this again? I said, well, we played at the HMGS South Con. I said, you do? I said, I've been going to them for a couple of years now. I don't remember saying, oh yeah, well, we always run an Armati tournament. I said, well, you guys have loaner armies? I don't have enough time to paint, troops, but I'm like, I guess I could, I could eventually get, oh yeah, we got loaner armies. So I show up, a couple months later. I think this was over the summer. In September it was coming up. And I go and I run into Leon. I was already going to the con anyways, do other stuff, meet up with other friends. I said, where the hell's all our Armati guys? Oh, well, they had some kind of tiff with the author, and everybody went their separate ways, and nobody played Armati anymore. Nobody played Armati in this group. I'm like, well, damn it! I've been waiting a decade or so to play this game. Finally found a group of people to play it. They played at the con that I already go to. I'm all excited to paint the stuff for it. They're doing the standard size. They weren't doing the intro like I wanted to do. I was even trying to do the smallest amount of figures. Not because I don't like a lot of figures, but because I paint slow as shit, you know? And if I'm going to paint a lot of figures, there's no point in painting more than like 60 of something when I can go out and paint, somebody else that they fight as well. Waited all this time to play this game. Finally found people to play the game, and it fell apart. He's like, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to come back or, he's like, oh, they're going to come up with our advanced Armati or something like that, but I don't know what's going to happen. I said, okay. So I was just kind of putzing around, and here's Marty playing this DBA game. And it's the same type of game, but it's even less figures. And he was running some tournament, and this was September 2004. And I played in a tournament and played a couple of starter games, played in a tournament. Was the hardest, and I still think to this day, the hardest set of rules I have ever played in my entire life. Because they're abstract. I'm not an abstract thinker. I mean, what is this 1d6? What the hell is 1d6? Like Monopoly? It's weird to use just a d6 dice. And it's easy to remember, that, spearmen are +4 and blades are +5 versus foot, but +3 versus mounted. That stuff's easy to remember. It's hard to remember that, some guys can't actually kill the other guy, but if they double them, it's just all the inner workings. And it's like, this is just like this is more complicated than Advanced Squad Leader that I was really familiar with at the time. At the time, I was still an Advanced Squad Leader player. I'm like, this is really complicated. Because Advanced Squad Leader is not abstract at all. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. There wasn't a lot of troops, and the next con I went to, I had a feudal Spanish army painted, and almost every con, which down here it's twice a year, I had a new army painted for it. But that's only making 2 armies a year, so that's about how many armies I have. I have about 40. So. Yeah, the rest is kind of history, but that's really what happened. Before that point, I had never played an Ancients game. I'd never played anything with Romans or Egyptians or anything medieval. It was all World War II or World War I, land combat World War II or naval combat World War II or World War I. That's all I ever played, And, I am a World War II guy. I used to build 1/35th scale modelers. Yes, here's a model of a modeler. No. That's all I used to do. Never had I played games with Romans before. Why? Nobody in my area ever played them. You're exposed to, back in those days, you go to the local store. What are you guys playing? Oh, the first game I was exposed to, miniature-wise, was Johnny Reb. And I do not like the American Civil War, regardless of the rule set. I don't necessarily have anything particularly against Johnny Reb. It's just a war I'm not interested in. It's a war I'm not interested in learning more about. I don't like the uniforms. I don't like the hairstyles. I don't like that everybody's American. I already am American. Why do I want to play something where I'm already what I am? I'm not. My people weren't over here yet, but still, my clan wasn't over here yet. But anyhow, I felt the same way about Empire 2nd Edition, but I really like Napoleonic 15s, but Empire felt like a college course. I've heard horror stories about Empire 2nd Edition. And one of the things that was the most unique about DBA, the most unique thing about DBA, and there's a lot of unique things about it compared to anything I had played before. The most unique thing about DBA is you are going to finish every game. End of story. Every game is going to be finished. I've tracked all my games. I've played over 2,500 games. Only one game did I not finish. That's pretty freaking impressive. And it's not like, the game didn't run over a little bit or whatever. I'm just saying, it's not like I have the attention span of, it's like, you play all day something and it's like, well, you don't have anything to show for it. It's still kind of up in the air. No, there's a clear winner and there's a clear loser, and there's a sense of completion in that. It'd be like if every time you went and bought a puzzle, right? You buy one at the store and you buy a puzzle. You never finish the freaking puzzle, There's a sense of completion that I've finished other games before, but it's not a sure thing. Okay. We're going to give this guy black pants. Why? F it. Last guy didn't have black pants. I mainly just want to come out here and hang out with you guys. I don't get to talk about this stuff with anybody. But that's the whole ancients thing. Ancient games that I've played. Ancient and medieval games that I played. DBA and its derivatives. Triumph. What else have I played? Shit, that may be it. That may be the only ones that... Oh, Armati. That may be it. Some people don't like DBA because it doesn't have enough figures. That wasn't the reason I didn't like about it. I don't like a game where it has lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of figures. And you move around a lot of stuff and they don't last on the table very long. You pick them up. Or they're made by a rule set. See, when I started gaming, there was no one that was making figures and rule sets. That was like unheard of. You either made miniatures or you made rules. And I'm not that old, I'm a decade younger than most historical gamers. But there was no, hey, we're going to come out with some American Civil War figures. Oh, good, I can play them with the other ones. Oh, no, we're going to make our own rules, and we're going to make them in some weird scale. That's just odd. And the bad thing about that isn't that it's their own rules, and then they're in a weird scale. It's that they might just decide to pull a Games Workshop and say, I don't want to support that anymore. So you're stuck with half of an army with, say, maybe no cavalry that nobody else makes figures for a rule set that they don't support. Sorry, you don't get to destroy the effort that I get to put into it. That may work for some people, but that's a turnoff for me. Very true, many big group games don't finish because a lot of players give up once or they get disadvantaged. Yeah, well, some people need to grow up. You need to play with people you don't mind losing. And then it's okay, Most fun I had playing a couple of games of Field Glory and DBA First Edition, but that was more because of who I played with in the DBA case. Well, there you go. Do I think I'll ever go back to Sea Creek? That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question, Jared. So the game before DBA, by far, that I played more than any other war game, by far, was Sea Creek 4. I mean, it's not even close. I played probably 150 games of Sea Creek 4, which sounds like a lot of freaking games, but it isn't compared to 2,500 games of DBA. Now, you remember, Sea Creek 4 games either didn't finish, or they ran 6 or 8 hours, or, in one case, 26. Now, you gotta remember, it's a 26-hour game. I was exhausted, but I wasn't bored for a second. It's not like it's a boring game. I mean, if you're a rivet counter, it's not a boring game. Sea Creek 5 I got in 2005 when it came out. Joe Coton is one of the guys that runs it at cons. He's really familiar with it. I have the rule set. Sea Creek is not I would not call it, Sea Creek 4 I would not call a complicated game by any stretch of the imagination. It makes sense. I'm not going to go back to Sea Creek 4 ever. I'm never going to range estimate again. That is just like torture. That's pouring your soul into something and then you still don't get the hits. But Sea Creek 5, I don't play it at cons, and the designers of Sea Creek 5 and all the Sea Creeks, they run shows at our con. They're Florida people. They're Rich Satori lives in, I think, New Smyrna Beach, and Jack Joyner lives in Atlanta area, I think, and they come down and they're always running 3 or 4 games. But the problem is they take a scenario that isn't going to finish, and our convention is strict 4 hour sessions. You have to, they're only 4 hours. You can't have 5 hours. You can't have 6. You know, and they're not going to finish in 4 hours. And I don't want to play something that isn't going to finish. But am I ever going to go back to if Joe puts on a game of Sea Creek 5 for us in a non-convention setting? I'm all up for playing it. I really enjoy it. That's in my blood. That's the very first thing that I got into World War II was the German surface raiders, and that's actually the first thing I was into because I modeled the Bismarck and and the Hood and all that kind of stuff, and then I found I can actually play this stuff. Like that's really cool. So all in junior high, that's what I was reading about was all stuff about the Battle of the Atlantic. I didn't give a shit about the sub part. I'm talking about capital ships, World War II capital ships, and so will I go and buy ships for the fleets? Probably not. Not because I wouldn't enjoy playing them, but because the battlefield, by and large, is two-dimensional. And what I mean by two-dimensional is it doesn't have a lot of opportunities to paint buildings or woods or different things from that standpoint. It's not that it isn't any fun, but a lot of people just aren't into naval stuff. I am, and I like the ocean. But am I going to go back to Sea Creeks from the standpoint of building fleets? Because I had like 500 ships at one point, and like 300 of them were painted. They weren't painted well by today's standards, but I still had them, and it was one of the first things I sold on eBay in the early 2012, something like that. I sold them. I hadn't used them in like almost 20 years. I'm like, I don't want to see these things anymore. And yeah, I had most of this stuff too when I sold them. No, I had almost all this stuff too when I sold them. I just decided to keep these along. But I don't think I'm going to go back to actually painting ships. Even though there's a wealth of information on them. If I did, I'd do 6,000. I'm a 2400 scale guy, but with 6,000 scale stuff, the game and the miniatures are a little bit more in scale with each other. They're still like 4 times bigger than they're supposed to be, or something like that. But it's not like absurd. So I definitely would play it again. I'm not going to play it at a con because the games don't finish, With Secret, they were playing last year's Historic. I think Joe was at the table when you went in filming the walk around. Secret, they were playing at last year's Historicon. Yes, they were playing Secret 5 upstairs. Yeah, because I remember talking to Jack. Yeah, that was one of the games they were playing. Yeah. They're not going to finish the game. And I'm not bored. I'll play a 12-hour game of freaking Sea Creek. I have no problem. I love the ships. I'll be like, oh, that's the wrong ship, or that's the wrong, you get that stuff in your blood, But a game that I have, and it's called, I think it's called Command at Sea, and it was put together by the same guy who did Harpoon, and it focuses on all the wrong shit that I'm not interested in, like the armor values is like 2 armor values and every shit. Oh, fuck that. I mean, no, I want deck armor, I want belt armor, I want turret armor, I want conning tower, superstructure, and then even more stuff than that, because that's the personality of the vessel, Sorry, I got to step away. Too much going on. Can't give this any attention. Be back in a bit. Okay. Attacked by the Huns. Now, I'm sure you got your reasons. I still got this stuff. It won't come off. I can't. I just got to scrub it. So I will play Sea Creek. I still have Sea Creek 5. The rules. I still have Sea Creek 4, actually. I have very fond memories of it. My only gripe with Sea Creek is that it's played with not enough time to be able to finish it. But I would not want to play a vague. I don't like playing a vague World War II set. Now, talking about vague World War II set. In recent memory, one of them a few days ago, and another one about a month ago, I have played 2 rule sets that I had not been really familiar with lately. And that is Flames of War and Rapid Fire. I had played Rapid Fire a long time ago and didn't remember jack about it. Flames of War, I had played that a while ago and didn't remember jack about that either. Obviously, both of them not in a tournament setting, just a scenario. And it was interesting comparing them to the old standard, which is Command Decision, way back in the day, in the late 80s. And yes, my group gave up Harpoon and Command C because of the complexity and the lack of time. Yeah, and they focus on, I want the game, if it's going to be slow, about, a certain shell landing on a certain ship and the penetration of armor and the effects of that. That kind of detail, I don't mind. Running out of fuel and stuff with planes and crap, weather states, all that kind of stuff is fine. But if you add all that and then you make the actual penetration, ammo, hit location vague, I'm out. Because you basically didn't focus on the stuff I was interested in. Not that it's not important, it's just not something I'm particularly interested in. Now, going back to what I was saying, Command Decision. I played Command Decision quite a bit in the late 80s, and it was always felt kind of flat from the standpoint, especially with the infantry. But having played, and I actually like that scale. I like the 1 to 5 scale. I prefer 1 to 1. I don't mind 1 to 5. It makes sense. I look at 10 tanks and go, oh, it's a battalion. That's kind of ingrained in me. Rapid Fire, same scale as that. So that part's natural. The Flames of War was weird to me. It was weird to me because, well, first of all, Rapid Fire and Flames of War both use D6, which is weird. It's weird to use D6 in a World War II setting, for me. But anyhow, so, it is what it is. Flames of War doesn't play like it should be a 1-to-1 scale game. That's probably my biggest gripe with Flames of War, is that you have 5 tanks, and they're all supposed to represent 1 tank each, and the game doesn't feel like it's representing them that way. The way that everybody seems to play Flames of War with all your tanks lined up like a Napoleonic column. The reason people do that, and I even did it when I played it, is because shooting through your own tanks blocks stuff. Okay, and that's all fine and dandy, but the footprint that your tank is on the battlefield is a lot larger than the actual tank would be in the game. I mean, even if you used micro armor, they're still too big compared to the range that things shoot. But yet, it allows you to block fire, so you're being punished for that. So if the only way to avoid not blocking your own fire is setting up in a freaking line. But in the late 80s, 90s, I played a Sydney club called the Spartans. They were a great group, lots of different games, different areas going on. Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get back to that. I don't think we're ever going to get back to... I'm not saying the hobby's dead. It's just different. In some ways, it's better. I think we live in an age where we find out about games that we never would have known about in the 80s. We never would have heard about them. And you get to see somebody do a rules review on a game that you never even heard about that somebody decided to do on YouTube. But there's so many different types of games that can distract so many people. You know, I mean, you got video games. You got some people that like to play historical games, check. War games, check. Historical games, check. But they don't want to play on the tabletop, or they don't paint, or they don't want to play with miniatures. So you get all kinds of different. It's harder. In some ways, it's harder to find people. You know, you probably shop the Tin Soldier by the Dymox building. Australian geography there. Whereas, you know, in the 80s, you would have not known about these other rule sets, but you wanted to play any game, and they're playing this rule set, so you play that one. But yeah, so it's just different. It's different. But we have this. We have this interaction that is, for me, it's the best thing since sliced butter, because I love doing this and I have no one to talk about it in the real world. And I want to do this, but I'm just bored if I'm just listening to music and stuff. Or even books on, you know, even Audible. I get bored after a while, you know? So, yeah. But anyway, so I played Flames of War and I played Rapid Fire recently. I don't like either one of them. But that's fine. This doesn't mean I'm going to play it. Neither one of them are going to motivate me to paint stuff for that rule set. They're just both too. They paint a narrative. The narrative that gets created as you play both of those games is one that isn't specific or interesting enough for me to be interested in playing. I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm trying to get across, but it's not. They're not exciting enough games that I want to pour my interest into painting stuff for them. You know, it's like if you want to play Axis and Allies. Okay, cool. I'm going to take all the Axis and Allies figures and paint them. Why? It's not a game that deserves that kind of attention. You know, for me, you know. And again, if you enjoy it, by all means. But, you know, it's very fragmented these days. And yes, we're normally stuck with one set of rules. HARG, thank the Lord Harry that DBA came along. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to play, as much as I would like to have a game that has more detail than DBA, WRG 7 would just be more of the same. That, you know, not finish a game, you know. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, most games that I've played DBA, and I've played a lot of them, my opponent has been very gracious. Because neither person's tortured for hours on end in a game that they can't win. You know, it's like if you have a bad game in 50 minutes, it's over with. You know, you don't turn into freaking Hitler. That, you know, you're so damn angry at a game because you can't win, but yet you're forced to play another 3 hours. You know, or you're forced to lean over a table, pushing all these troops forward, where you're not forced to be uncomfortable for a long period of time. Is probably would be the best way to describe it. And it does allow you to paint lots of different armies, So it's not like I'm tired of painting red. Go pick a different army. Stop painting Romans. Paint other stuff. You only have to paint 30 or 40 figures and you can move on to something totally different. Well, I like this even more because I want to paint a freaking half track next. So I do. But all those were reasons why I really stuck with DBA for as long as I did, because it just kind of made sense. And I was really enjoying learning about periods that I only had cursory information, cursory knowledge of. Because for me, gaming was all about learning stuff. Okay, so this guy's got some kind of a jacket on. I feel like it needs to be light colored. Let's make it light colored. I'm out of a beverage. I'll be right back. No, I absolutely would love to play Secret again, but it's just got to be in a setting that. What I used to do when I was in my late teens, so the first miniatures I painted were 1/2400 scale ships, and I'd go to shows and I'd bring my case of my ships and be like, "Hey, who do you want to play?" And everybody played 1/2400. Everybody played 1/2400 scale here in the States. So I'd look at the scenario and I'd be like, all right, I have that ship, I have that one. I'd like to play that one. Oh, okay, cool. And I said, yeah, but get your miniature off. And I would take mine that I brought there, even though the person who was putting on the game would supply all the miniatures, and I would play with my figure that I painted, which was usually better painted than what was supplied, even though wasn't that good what I was painting back then. But that was your whole purpose of having your own miniatures. If you're going to have your own miniatures and not use them, what's the point in that? And that's just always what I would do. So that one of the big attractiveness things for DBA was that I got to bring my own figures and play with my own figures, and I didn't have to worry about other people mishandling or ham-fist them. And it reminded me, this last show I went to, I've mentioned this before, I'm playing this game. It was with 28 millimeters figures, because Jim Riley put it together. It was a Lion Rampant game. It was like a 3-part big epic game that he put on, the Crusades and stuff. I signed up Saturday to play there's all 4-hour sessions. So one from 9 to 1, from 2 to 6, and from 8 to midnight. I signed up to play all that because I wanted to learn how to play Lion Rampant, because I'm probably going to use some of my figures to play some Lion Rampant 15s, and modify it as needed to make it a little bit more flavorful, which should be easy to do. One of the opponents had this host of 28 millimeter figures, and he just literally grabbed them almost like he was a double-barreled backhoe. He just grabbed them like this and just dumped them. Instead of moving each individual guy, he just took them and dumped them. And I looked at the GM of this face of like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm just like, and I should have said something to him extremely cruel, and I just didn't. And I missed that opportunity because, yeah, sometimes I'm blunt, but if I'm blunt, you probably deserve it. And that just reminded me, I'm not going to put on a game in the con anymore, because that MFer does not get to take away however many hundreds of hours I spent painting those figures. It's not cool, and that's just somebody that that's the problem with the con, If you put on a game at a con, you got to play with whoever shows up to play. There's a couple of people that showed up at a game that were playing a game that I don't play anymore. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And I don't want to play a game with those guys anymore, because one of them is a notorious pain in the ass question asker. It's not that he asks questions, but you're explaining the answer to him and he's already asking you two more questions. Annoying as shit. He's got a condition, I guess. And the other guy is just always a complainer, even when he's winning or whatever. He just has this attitude. I don't want to play with just random people. I don't like most gamers. Most gamers suck. And I'm not, God's gift to gaming, but I think I have a good attitude. I don't want to I had a couple of incidences that happened in the last convention. I had a great time. And this guy was my opponent, and we're having our own little seesaw battle over here, and I'm doing it just like I did in a video, explaining why I'm doing things, and we're just having this great narrative that's going back and forth, but then some people are just like, their life sucks, and they've got to make up for it in this battle, and there's dice involved and probability, and sometimes things don't go your way, and they just have a fit about it. I'm like, oh well, shit happens. But yeah, I don't want to be put in a situation where somebody's going to destroy the stuff that I've spent time working on it. I have too many things to do to have people undo things. Khaki. Well, that's the color his jacket's going to be. Just felt like this is the one what it is. So. Of all the games that I played of DBA, I think one time I figured out how many people I played. Say 200. It's about 200 different people that I played. Only 3, I think, I don't ever want to play a game with again. That's pretty good odds, man. That's a high code of honor, I would say. All right. Let's give this guy a jacket. What do we do? We're painting with the super readers. Yeah, normally I paint with the contacts out. We're living life on the edge. It makes it a lot easier to look at your guys' comments, not having to. You can always tell when I have my contacts out because I'm always like, what the hell did somebody say? I got to get like 8 inches from the screen. How long have I been on here? An hour and I haven't gotten shit painted. Doesn't matter. The other reason I love to do this and not DBA, I don't have any certain period of time. I don't have to get these done by a certain game or anything. They'll get done when they get done, and that's when they're going to get done. Using that wet palette. Oh, you're using a wet palette right now? Oh, I am. I knew you talked about getting one. Did you get one? We haven't named this bastard yet. All right. Well, before I do that, I better make sure I can find the names. Oh, here they are. Oh, I don't know who he's going to be yet. We'll have to see what he turns out looking like. Friend bought one for my birthday. Excellent. How you liking it? Don't use it for enamel paint. Let's see. If you used it for enamel paint and you covered the sponge in enamel thinner, would it still work the same? I don't know. Don't use it for enamel paint. Enamel paint stays wet a lot longer than you don't really need it for that. For your birthday's not here yet. It's not Barbarossa. Greg Jared, you ever play a chap called Ivan Withers in Sydney? I saw he was part of a roadies campaign back in the 70s and 80s that was featured in old issues of Slingshot. Roadies campaign, like Rhodesia? Stormfront passing the house. Those white supremacists? Ask me how I know that. Heard it on the news. The storm is the part that's, like stormtroopers. I got soaked at work today. Luckily, there wasn't much lightning. You said roadies, and the first thing I think of is Rhodesia? But I don't think you meant that. Last birthday, haven't used it much. Not playing anything. What are you doing these days? You still doing the slot car stuff? I just saw a video, speaking of Arizona, I just saw a video, I think yesterday, or it might even been this morning, that guy that's got that YouTube channel, something like Andy's House of Hobbies or something like that. He said he had some video, and I haven't watched it yet. I have a bookmark where he came across hundreds of model kits or something like that. And yeah, there was a place here in Jacksonville, so it's about an hour and a half away from us, called in the late '80s, early '90s, called the Kit Bunker. I don't know if they did mail order or anything, and this was literally like an annex. Imagine like a 4 or 5 car garage. And it was stacked from bottom to top of kits. Tamiya kits and monogram things and this, that, and the other. And 72nd and 135th scale and anything with plastic kits, it was full of them. And it was in a residential neighborhood. And it was almost like this little outcropping, and people would go there, and I ended up picking up, what did I pick from them? The Panzer III-M from Tamiya, I think. The one I had for, I picked from there. Man, I would love to have a place like that. I don't care if it's old kits. I don't care if it's old SG kits. 172nd scale kits, somewhere you can go and just pick them up. That'd be cool. You know? I don't care if they're the most accurate kits available. Whatever, a place you can actually go and like physically like lay hands on something and walk away with something. Wow, just like the old days. The Kit Bunker. It disappeared, I think, in the early 90s. I mean, the mid 90s. Yeah, something like that. Now you're lucky if you find a hobby store, and if you do, they probably don't have the scale of stuff that you're interested in. A lot of these places will be like, hobby headquarters, and you go there and all they have is RC crap. Not my cup of tea. It's always RC supplies. Well, they, in their defense, they have to carry things that sell. And, that stuff appeals to more people than gamers. And, they cost more. And a lot of the stuff probably gets torn up and they got to buy more parts for them. So, you know. I was never into RC stuff because when I was younger, younger meaning in my late teens, early 20s, I had no money. And that stuff costs money. I mean, that costs like a lot of money, The other great thing about DBA is that we rapidly converted the rules to play Kingmaker and campaign games. They were fun. Oh, cool. I never played Kingmaker. Lots of train lovers here. There was this, not even that. They don't even have those anymore. Watching YouTube the other night about gators in suburban Florida. It would freak me out not knowing if water was safe to swim in. I mean, they could be in your swimming pool. They could be. You guys have crocs, man. They're a lot bigger than gators. I've never encountered a gator in a place where it wasn't supposed to be in my entire life. I've encountered one poisonous snake. Sorry, venomous snake. That's my Calvary thing. I never call horses Calvary, but I do sometimes call snakes poisonous. Whatever. Forgive me. I don't call magazines clips, though. That's the cardinal sin of cardinal sins. One venomous snake. that I've encountered. Not that many snakes to begin with. I mean, I know they're out there, but they just they don't want to. They don't want to be. They don't want to encounter people. You know. Not within 2,000 miles of you. Hey, Mr. Barnes. You hate that show? They're killing gators. I'd kill every gator if they were attacking me, but then I'd have to be where they're at, and what would I be doing there? So yeah, I'm not a kill animals kind of person. I mean, if they're attacking me, I'd kill every damn one of them. But I'm just saying, they're really out of their zone if that's happening. I don't go to where they live to mess with them. Yeah, I've never encountered a gator. Somebody in my neighborhood showed a picture of a crawfish. They had like some random crawfish that was crawling on their grass, and I'm like, there's no creeks anywhere near here, but a crawfish that took the wrong turn in Albuquerque. You know? Yeah, I'm not particularly scared of gators, but then I haven't had any run-ins with them. I remember when I was a kid, early '80s, late '70s, but early '80s, there was always loose dogs. I remember you'd go and you'd ride your bike everywhere, and you'd go to your friend's neighborhood, and you'd stay over at his house kind of late, and sometimes you got chased by a freaking dog that just wanted to mess with you, you know? And you don't see that anymore, you know? Most snakes here are non-poisonous, just one diamondback. Yeah. I think snakes are cool. I don't want them crawling over my body, and I don't want them in my house, because you'll never get them out. They don't have any legs, and they're fast as hell. But, I'm not grossed out by them like a, cockroach or worms. Ugh. Worms is like the ketchup of animals. I know Rick's on here. You know what I'm talking about. God, I hate worms. Nasty. Just regular old earthworms. Yuck. Snakes are cool. I don't like how fast snakes are. I appreciate animals that are slow. Now, I get it. They probably wouldn't survive very well. But, I like animals that are slow because you can appreciate them. Not ones that are like, freaking skittish. Maybe not as slow as a sloth. That's like freaking extreme, but I've seen hummingbirds a few times. They're too fast. They give you freaking ADD just looking at them. It's like, just chill out a second, dude. Let me get a look at you. You're cool, You hate it when it rains and the worms are all over the place. That's right. And it smells like spoiling shrimp. Sorry about that. Your attention was being drawn in too many directions. I was starting to piss me off. Had to remove the distractions. You killed everybody. Get out of here. I thought you just had an episode you had to involve, like, going to the bathroom or something like that. That's fine. We're still here. I can relate. I don't like being pulled in too many different directions. I just don't know what the hell you had going on. It's just me. It's just me in front of a table here trying to paint one guy really slowly. I recall when I lived in Michigan, walking to school on rainy days, and there'd be tons of worms on the sidewalk. Oh, they stink, and they're gross. And I wish the birdies could eat them all. Well, if they eat all the worms, well, what would happen? They would have to learn how to eat something else, man. Just like let them eat cake, let them have tequila. Okay, speaking of birds, There's animals that today we're going to talk about. Well, we're always talking about something different. Animals. I am totally prejudiced with animals. There's some animals that I think that are awesome, and there's some animals that I wish they just would never have existed. One of those animals I wish that never existed are this particular type of bird called a mockingbird. They are psycho. And not only are they psycho, they have balls of steel. Apparently, birds of prey don't think they're worth snapping in half because they do all kinds of stuff to them that I wouldn't put up with if I was a hawk. But anyhow, and they just like telling the world constantly that they're relevant because they're freaking loud as shit. And I had one that was on a tree, not even that close to me at work, and I couldn't have a conversation with somebody that was next to me outside because he was making such a freaking racket. Birds drop aquatic critters sometimes. I found a fish in the middle of the woods once, and that only sensible theory I could come up with. Your phone wouldn't shut up. Was trying to paint, trying to type in the chat, trying to listen to you talking, and trying to watch the only show I watched live. Wasn't working. Yeah, I can't watch a TV show and do anything else at the same time. My phone never has the volume on, and my wife, it drives my wife crazy, but yeah. God, I hate mockingbirds. They're horrible. They're psycho too. They'll like chase a hawk or shit like that. Like, you candy ass, take care of that bastard, Now hawks, I think freaking birds of prey are awesome. Big fan here. Ah, yes, Billy Badass. There he goes. Billy Badass and the Chamber of Badassitude or whatever. So it reminds me of a Borderlands. I think it's a Borderlands DLC. Yeah, I was gonna come online like I don't have time. It's too late, so I played some Borderlands instead. What a great game! Those guys had a field day coming up with the freaking voiceovers and all that stuff. In Australia, it's magpies in the spring. They're like Stuka dive bombers. Can't eat at McDonald's with begging birds. Yeah. Well, they're doing you a favor. You don't have to go to McDonald's. You're making good headway on the Confederate infantry I'm painting. Just about got 66 where the uniforms were painted. So Confederates take a long time because of the uniform situation. Sure, each guy's separate. But look at the bright side. You don't have to pay. You don't have to paint any shoes. Magpie. Magpie even sounds like an annoying bird. Their food sucks save for the fries. The fries are almost always good. It makes you wonder what they're made out of. A friend of mine used to say, "Man, they sure make some good fried cardboard. I don't care what they're made out of. They're almost always good." I don't like eating at a place where they feel like they're doing you a favor for serving you. Surprising the miniatures all have shoes. I've never seen Confederate miniatures without shoes. Man, they should make some. Okay, how many people are on here? 7 people? All right, let's get everybody fired up. Did you guys see? Did you guys see? I think it was yesterday. The post on, I don't know if it was one site or multiple sites, that this guy had made. It was a Spanish guy, I recognized by his name, that he was either the designer or the sculptor of these historical miniatures that were, he posted them on a bunch of historical miniatures website. I don't know how big these figures were. Let's say they're 54 millimeter. It looked like they were bigger than 28s. But anyhow, they were these elvish warrior girls that had no chest armor. Let's put it that way. They were bare-breasted elves or whatever. And the comments, the people came unglued. And the only problem I had with it was like, they're not historical miniatures, okay? But people just came unglued with comments like, I don't own any miniatures like that because they just don't interest me, but I'm not offended by them. I mean, doesn't really bother me, I wouldn't have a problem having Gauls that had no pants on, and they're all male. It doesn't bother me, Oh man, the comments were just hilarious to read. Obviously, I didn't comment on them. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I just, people like that are looking for get a rise out of it. But I showed her my wife, and she's like, I don't see what the big deal is of it. This is why I don't like historical gamers. They don't. Well, it's one thing if you laugh about it. It's another thing if you're playing a game with other people and they're making crude comments while you're playing with the figures. I can get the crude comment thing, but it's just a figure. It's not like they're doing any kind of acts or anything like that. I heard Alaska's a bald eagle problem. Apparently, like pigeons here. Letting those elvish teats breathe. Yeah. My wife said they look pretty good to her. It's just a human body, or actually they look just like human except the little ears. I still wouldn't play them, Rick, because I like playing humans. Because I'm a human supremacist. If I have any non-humans in my games, my humans are out to kill those non-humans. Same, that's right. Free the AFL vision. They were really well sculpted. And they should not have been on those Facebook groups because they were not historical figures. But look, in this day and age, when all kinds of really inappropriate things are okay, and you just have to put up with it, it's not like they're in some kind of, compromising position. I don't know. People need to live a little, People were just coming unglued. And it just makes you wonder, if somebody posts something like that, is there purpose in trying to get a rise out of people? And if they are there to get a rise out of people, you're basically making them want to post more of that stuff on there. Like, I remember a long time ago, this was probably 20 years ago, on the miniatures page, which I don't go on anymore, this one guy asked, and this guy obviously was a troll, was saying, I want to paint some Japanese World War II figures, but I want to do them in the style of... And see, this is what I like to do. I don't mind bringing up things that are controversial, because not talking about stuff and tiptoeing around it isn't going to make it any better, okay? You need to confront stuff and, call things silly when they're silly, and, real problems when they're real problems. But this guy was obviously trolling. And he said, I want to paint some Japanese World War II figures, and I want to do them in the style of the Simpsons. What color yellow should I use for their flesh? Like what Vallejo color or whatever. And people came unglued. And it's like, obviously, everybody's yellow in The Simpsons except Apu, right? And maybe some other. I don't watch the show anymore, but paint 20 millimeter skirmish level stuff. Go to that scale when I paint a higher standard. Go to smaller stuff. Go to paint much faster. Don't need to do as much. Yeah, I'd never get anything done if it was 28 millimeter or larger. I don't mind playing with them. Just like that big crusade they had a couple of years ago about how to get more women wargamers. Hey, I'm all for playing women wargamers, and I can behave. It's not like I've got to say chauvinistic things all the time. Sometimes the right result happens in the game, and you need to kind of comment on it, when it's funny, But I'm all for women playing, but it's just something they're just not normally interested in, and that's just society, whatever you want to call it. And there's exceptions to rules, like I don't give a shit about sports at all. Sure, you get things done. They're not much bigger than 28 millimeter. Not my scale. It's a little too late. I'm too old to start on that. If 20 millimeter didn't exist and I wanted to do World War II skirmish, I'd do it in 15s. There's lots of really good 15s now. There weren't back then. There are now. Do women have hobbies? Absolutely. Come on, man. And some of them I think are really cool. Be careful not to collect and pay Germans, Tony, or you'll be called a Nazi lover. Whatever. I got everybody. Nazis got to kill somebody too. Somebody's got to kill the Nazis. Got to have the Nazis around to kill communists. Then you kill that last Nazi too. Done with both groups. Both food groups gone. Oh, man. People just need to lighten up. I mean, I literally make fun of everything except the Holocaust. That's can't go there. Not cool. Everything else is fair game. It's just tiptoeing around stuff doesn't benefit anybody. But then I grew up in another time where you just made fun of everything. You don't mean anything by it. It's just kind of nice to break the ice. And if you don't like that, then you probably shouldn't play a game with me. Because it's going to come up, you know? Well, I was supposed to ID what kind of rifle this is. Well, we don't know. It's kind of vague. Somebody answers this question. Why do a lot of 40K players think that historical gaming is strictly just 39.45? Because they're stupid. Because they don't know who their dad is. Next question. Hey, when I grew up, everybody knew who their dad was. I'm just saying, you know. It's got to be that. What I don't understand why so many people are into Games Workshop stuff. And it's not that they're into science fiction or they're into fantasy, and I'm not bashing Games Workshop, but Games Workshop has done a lot of business decisions that are not consumer friendly. Okay? They're not friendly for you and me, generally. They'll get you involved in something and then they'll drop ship. Or they're gonna, you know, we don't support this anymore. Or you're not playing that in a certain way. Or you can't play that because you're not using my figures. And like, all that stuff is not consumer friendly, okay? And yes, they're trying to run a business, but you also don't have to be a dick while you're doing it. Now, their White Dwarf magazine and stuff like that, and all the inspiration, and they have some beautiful artists. I get all that, but there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't appeal to me. You know, their business model. When I grew up, Chuck E. Cheese was still relevant. Worst pizza I've ever eaten. When I grew up, we took accountability for our actions. There you go. Yeah. You couldn't just call somebody an MFer because you could only do it to your face, and one of you guys would get punched out. And then you wouldn't do it again. You can see that skylight think this historical game is really idiotic. Yeah. It's all about tanks. Tanks are cool, but then people that play them don't know anything about them. Ditch War Games Workshop. Have you tried playing either Xeno's Rampant or Grimdark? 40Kers, I know don't play historical, but they are knowledgeable of it. The old Hammer stuff. Oh yeah, back when it was called Citadel. Man, those miniatures were great. I remember when they came out, and like they had the freaking name of who it was on the bottom. I have this wolf that's floating around here somewhere. And I did paint a 40K. I mean, it looked like shit, but I was proud of it at the time. An Imperial Guard squad, because I saw a picture of White Dwarf magazine, like, oh, those guys look really cool. And I had some fantasy figures. Had a barbarian set that I had a couple of girls with the, and those were all. I think that was it. That's the only Games Workshop things I have, and that wolf is floating around here somewhere. But when they came out, man, their detail was just so much better than anything else I'd seen before that. There's Warbolt action, get some conversation, create a perception of 40Ks. I'm still miffed at being called a Nazi for liking World War II German equipment and preferring model stuff over other things. Well, call that person a communist. There you go. Call it even. Space Crusade, Space Hulk, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, Manowar. Manowar was the one game I wanted to get into, and it just never... They discontinued before I got around to getting into it. Mordheim. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Mordheim. Maybe that's why I discontinued it. Tony, I only have 6 40K miniatures, and they don't fit in with my vision of science fiction games that have their own 40K setting. Mordheim's still very popular. I'm shocked they haven't brought it back. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about it. Warmaster. Warmaster is very popular. I've never played it. It seems to have, nice, talk. But when they do stuff, they discontinue their own stuff to bring out other things. I just don't understand it, Instead of like, why can't they just live in harmony with each other? Like, no, we've got to kill all this so we can bring something, we got to kill fantasy so you can bring in Sigmar. I just don't understand, Yeah, I never heard anybody say anything about Mordheim. The only Games Workshop stuff I've ever played is I used to have Talisman, the game, and that horrible prophetess that picks two cards and looks at both cards but only picks one. Cheating character. She was banned in the games when we played that. What else? What have I played? I have played Hero Quest with miniatures once, and it was a great game. That's it. I've never played any of their stuff. Dark Futures, the other game I want to get into it, got discontinued before I got a chance to jump on it. That's a pure historical games. A Tiger Tank's always going to be a Tiger Tank. AWI can always be kind of. You learn about real stuff instead of fluff. You know, fiction books that I've read. I can count on one hand how many fiction books I've read. Why? I mean, there's real things that happened. You know, why read? Why read a completely fictional thing? I mean, I've read The Berkut, Teen Yankee, a couple of Tom Clancy things. So that may be it. I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in it. There's too many cool things that really happened. I mean, unless you want to call, like, you know, memoirs of a German general, you know, make believe, which I could see a point for that. Citadel Games Workshop really upped the quality of miniatures. They were beautiful when they came out, and the hobby advanced to match them. They also made wargaming an acceptable mainstream hobby. I read fiction because it interests me. I may be big in industry, but not so much that I close my mind off to other things. Nah, just doesn't, not worth my time. But hey, you know, enjoy it. Go read your Harry Potter. I can't be in everything, so that's definitely one of the areas that, you know, all the books that they made you, all the books that they tended to be to make you read in school, right? The only one that I either read or enjoyed, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff they assign in school. I don't read that shit, and I love to read. I don't want to read Grapes of Wrath. Why? It's stupid. You know, I'm looking at why I'm not interested in reading that crap. You know. We did Macbeth, which I am not a Shakespeare fan, mainly because of the language it's written in. We did it in discussion format, so we're able to dissect it, and that was actually interesting. Tempe and Tony's Camp by the Miniature Line. If it's not complete, then I don't want to get any of them. Yeah, I mean, look at Zyston, and Zyston is great, okay? But Zyston took forever when they came out with the Romans to have any cavalry or command for them. Never read Harry Potter. Perhaps I will. Hey, if you want to. Lots of people find it interesting. The closest I've come to reading fantasy or science fiction is watching shows on TV that are based on a book, supposedly, and a lot of people are into, like Game of Thrones. You know, I'd never read Game of Thrones. Only reason I watched the show is because there's parts of it that I thought were pretty good, and everybody at the time was, you know, so it gave me something to talk to people about. Games Workshop, they made orcs green. I don't believe orcs were green before Games Workshop. Of course, they made trolls crappier. I remember the old Ralpartha troll that had the freaking the whitewash hair, almost like a barbarian German warrior. That remember they put that lime and stuff in their hair so it'd stand up straight. And he had that long corncob nose. That's what trolls used to look like. They were awesome looking. Game of Thrones is utter trash, both as a book and as a show. You never watched it? Only reason I watched is everybody was watching it. A couple of characters are pretty alright, but it's funny because that movie, that show really proved that everybody has a totally different opinion about things. There's some characters I couldn't freaking stand that are really well loved, and I'm like, how can I wouldn't follow that guy to a freaking urinal. Well, that's probably not a good example because I wouldn't follow anybody to a urinal, but that's beside the point. Um, they're like lack of charisma. But I guess they see something in them. See a few episodes on HBO for free. Thought it was utter garbage. Reminded me of why I threw the first book out after reading one chapter. Everybody also had really positive things to say about the old game Chainmail. I never got a chance to play it, but it was a game that was. Oh, Nordic, you weren't on here earlier when I mentioned this because this is definitely in your realm. So I played Flames of War very recently, and I played Rapid Fire not so very recently, but still relatively recently to know them. And I don't like either of them better than Command Decision. I think Command Decision's a better game, but what do I know? I don't like this idea that, it's your turn, so only you get to fire and only you get to move. It's like, call me when it's my turn. Now, at least Flames of War, for sure, I don't know if Rapid Fire does it as well, but Flames of War, at least, like, when you get a hit, you get to, you know, maybe survive it, so to speak. So that's kind of interactive and nice, but I prefer Command Decision. Or the Command Decision that I remember seemed like it was better. All right, let's paint this guy's face. Do him in the face. Man, I gotta use the little boy's room. I'll be right back. Okay. The only game I have that I wish I'd gotten a chance to play it, and I just read the rules. I'm gonna guess that definitely aren't recent releases from Wizards of the Coast. Yeah, I can't keep things straight. I realize there's a couple of I realize there's a couple of companies that to me I get confused with, and I probably get them confused because I don't have their products. Wizards of the Coast is one of them, and WizKids is the other one. And because they're the whole Wiz thing, but and what's the other one? This one I actually have one of their products is Avalanche Press and Compass Games. I got them both mixed up. I was thinking, yeah, Compass makes that. And like, no, it's Avalanche Press. Like, really? And I'm like, I guess because they're relatively new companies. I mean, I know they've been around probably for over 20 years, but they're still new. I get those two mixed up. Ugh. WizKids, I guess, make the click stuff, right? And Wizards of the Coast are I guess they're the D&D guys. I don't know, the new D&D guys, the ones that said, "Hey, if you make something for our system, you don't own it. We do." Like, that's a bit, not nice. You know, consumer unfriendly. They sold the items but contribute nothing to creation. Hasbro will always. I will always. Every time I hear Hasbro, I think of GI Joe figures. Does Hasbro still make board games? Do they still make any Avalon Hill, ex Avalon Hill games? Hasbro still makes Axe and Eyes, but that company is being boycotted by a lot of people after the last bunch of bull from them and Wizards of the Coast. Huh. I didn't know that Hasbro was doing a bunch of BS. I bet I could do a Google search for Hasbro BS, and I would find out exactly what people are complaining about. I'm just not into the. I don't keep up with all the BS. I mean, I'm all for people boycotting things. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a. Traveler. I remember people used to play that. I never played it, but Traveler. Traveler always reminded me, wrongly, probably, but that episode of the original Dungeons and Dragons, that was Escape to the Barrier Peaks or something like that. So it's like laser shit, right? Lack of quality. Ooh. I remember the original Axis and Allies, the very original Axis and Allies. You could go to the store and buy it, like a toy store. They had it. And you flipped all the way in the back and show you the pictures of the miniatures. And I'll be damned if the tanks didn't look like GHQ Shermans, right? You get them, and they get some kind of like a melted ass, half-ass KV-1 looking thing that's, was always disappointing. Eric Gray. Talking action commander with kung fu grip. That's before my time. Travel can be anything like you do. So what does the Traveler name come from? Is that basically like homage to time traveler, and therefore it can be any kind of period? That would make sense. I just thought it was space stuff. Maybe everybody that I saw playing it just wanted to do space stuff. I think Rick should run a role-playing game like in Twilight 2000 environment where everybody has to play freaking humans, because that's all there is. Traveler gets named because a lot of the game deals with traveling in stars. Okay. Mongoose, the Victory at Sea rules on Warlord games. That the flip-flop ships? The ships that come on a flip-flop. Somebody said that. I'm like, that looks so true. That looks so true. You could do all that to protect the ship, and still knuckleheads that come in and freaking ham fist stuff and break all your stuff. Whew. I'd like to see how your human-hating friends would adapt. I don't understand people that hate who they are. Like, if you don't like who you are, change yourself. Now, if you hate the fact that you're human, that might be a little bit of a problem. But, I mean, I like who I am, I hate that I'm human. There's a cliff, pal. Dress up as one of them furries then and never take off your outfit. Traveler 80 is more realistic than it uses real star charts, uses technology, exists now, and should exist the next few hundred years. I always liked the character generation of Traveler. Died half the time. Speaking of character generation, what was a superhero game? You always liked Twilight 2000. Yeah. Never very popular down here. Phoenix Command. Remember Phoenix Command? Holy anal retentive. I got some of those books that are going on the sell list. You'll be able to catch them at, that way. at Noble Knight. Champions, that's the one. That's the one. I remember there were people that would play Champions. I never did. I was never into superheroes. Aberrant. Or Aberrant. It's the Aberrant, the game, is a good superhero game. Serious unstable weather. Unstable clouds. Madison, Wisconsin. That's right. It's that way. It's over a little bit and way that way. Yeah, that warehouse video is insane. That place is massive. That place is massive. Yeah, didn't DC made some kind of video game where you could play a superhero, almost like try to do like a really bad ripoff of World of Warcraft, like a really poor ripoff. I forgot what the hell it was called, and tried playing that one for a little bit, but I'm just not into superheroes. And what else? They also made a Star Trek one was the same way. I'm like, I just wasn't into that. Whatever the hell it was called. Overwatch. That's the game I was trying to tell somebody about the other day. Overwatch. I'm generally a big fan of Blizzard products, not Overwatch, and not StarCraft. Not much happening. Yeah, well, I didn't take my contacts out, so I'm a little struggling with only 325 instead of 6. But that's all right. Did I see Noble Knight put out a call for the latest buy list, now seeking Grenadier and Ral Partha figures and old box sets? Yeah, not, don't have any of those. I certainly wouldn't have anything that wasn't opened. I don't understand people that collect toys and don't take them out of the package. But, hey, you know. Last night I actually quit doing what I was doing a little too early. Said I'm going to go to bed. And I tossed and turned in bed for like an hour and a half. It was really frustrating. Yeah, well, it's just like buying gold. They always want you to buy gold, but when it's time for you to sell it, they don't want to give you shit for it. I'm not falling for your ruse, pal. I'm wondering if you had a lot of things that were what do you call them? Unshrink wrapped, but you had a shrink wrap machine, you could re-shrink wrap them. Undead Mammoth. Shrink wrap machines can't be that expensive. Now here's a question for you. If you have a game that's shrink wrapped, no, if you have a game that's not shrink wrapped, and you shrink wrap it and send it to like Noble Knight and tell them this is an unshrink wrapped version of it. Not that I have a shrink wrap machine or intend to do this. How would they know that everything was there? Do they just unshrink wrap it and then do account and then shrink wrap it again. That's what they should do. The no, once they open it, it doesn't smell right. Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't have a funny smell if it had been out in the open, unwrapped. And a funny smell can, sometimes be pleasant. Doesn't have to be, horrible. When I sent my list to them the other day, they actually misquoted me because they thought I had one game and it's a different one, so they were going to give me $4 for a game, and instead they actually gave me 40 for it. So, okay. Well, they haven't given it to me yet, but 25% what I brought from them has been fine. But I've definitely had a few things that didn't fit their quality grade they had assigned to it. And it was always crappier than what they. It's not like you got something that was like in mint condition, but you bought it as a, you know, fair or what have you. Oh, and the other Games Workshop game I have played is they have a Hero Quest for the phone, and it actually looks pretty decent. I played it quite a bit. I haven't played it in a while, but I played it quite a bit. All right, well, I'm going to. It's 10:30. I'm going to call it a wrap. I had a great time hanging out with you guys. Got a little bit of stuff done. Got most of this guy done, but absolutely like entire deck cards, half of them no highlighter. Like, how can you not call out description? Yeah. But anyways, thanks for stopping by, folks. And I don't know what this weekend's going to bring. Hopefully, I can get back to a semi-normal schedule, but it's going to be hard to see with visitors and, my daughter's graduation from high school is coming up, and everything pretty much revolves around that. So, but anyhow, thanks for stopping by, folks, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon. See ya.